Dear students, today I am going to talk about Industrial Revolution, its causes and consequences. An industrial revolution is the process whereby a society changes from agriculture economy and adopts a modern economy dominated by industries, machines and technology. During the Industrial Revolution of the 18th century, there was a cultural and economic shift from the old traditional types of agriculture and human labor to manufactured goods produced in factories by complex machines using new sources of energy and technology. The advancement of technology improved goods production, transportation and the emergence of new towns and cities. Thus, Industrial Revolution is the process of change from an agrarian and handicraft economy to one dominated by industry and machine manufacturing. These technological changes introduced novel ways of work and living, fundamentally transformed society. In other words, the transformation of industry and economy in Britain between 1780 and 1850 is the first industrial revolution. This process began in Britain in the 18th century and from there spread to other parts of the world. Although used earlier by French writers, the term Industrial Revolution was first popularized by English economic historian Arnold Toynbee to describe Britain's economic development from 1760 to 1840. As we discussed Industrial Revolution, now we will discuss why Britain. Britain was the first country to experience modern industrialization. It had been politically stable since the 17th century. This meant that the kingdom had common laws, a single currency and a market that was not fragmented by local authorities, imposing taxes on goods that passed through their area, thus increasing their prices. By the end of the 17th century, money was widely used as a medium of exchange. By then, a large section of the people received their income in the form of wage and salaries rather than in goods. This gave people a wider choice for ways to spend their earning and expanded the market for the sale of goods. In the 18th century, England had been through a major economic change, later described as an agricultural revolution. This was the process by which bigger landlords had bought up small farms near their own properties and enclosed the village common lands, thus creating very large estates and increasing food production. This forced landless farmers and those who had lived by grazing animals on the common lands to search for jobs elsewhere. Let us discuss some important characteristics of Industrial Revolution. The main features involved in Industrial Revolution were technological, socio-economical and cultural. The technological change include the following: the use of new basic material like iron and steel. Number second point is the use of new energy sources including both fuel and motive power such as coal, the steam engine, electricity, petroleum and the internal combustion engine. The invention of new machines such as power loom that permitted increased production with a smaller expenditure of human energy. A new organization of work known as the factory system, which entailed increased division of labor and specialization of function. And the next point is the important development in transportation and communication, including the automobile, airplane, telegraph and radio. The next point is the increasing application of science to industry. These technological changes made possible a tremendously increased use of natural resources and mass production of manufactured goods. there were also many new developments in non-industrial spheres, including the following. Agriculture improvements had made possible the provision of food for larger non-agricultural population. Economic change that results in a wider distribution of wealth, the decline of land as a source of wealth in the face of rising industrial production and increased international trade. The next point is the political change reflecting the shift in economic power as well as new state policies corresponding to the needs of an industrialized society. Sweeping social change include the growth of cities, the development of working class movements and the emergence of new pattern of authority, and cultural transformations of a broad order. Workers acquired new and distinctive skills and their relations to their tasks shifted. Instead of being craftsmen working with hand tools, they became machine operators subjected to factory discipline. Finally, there was a psychological change. Confidence in the ability to use resources and to master nature was heightened. Now, let us discuss different types of industrial revolution. The first type is first industrial revolution. In the period of 1760 to 1830, the industrial revolution was largely confined to Britain. Aware of their head start, the Britain prohibited the export of machinery, skilled workers and manufacturing techniques. The Britain's monopoly could not last forever, since some Britishers saw profitable industrial opportunities abroad. Two Englishmen, William and John, brought the industrial revolution to Belgium by developing machine shops, and Belgium became the first country in continental Europe to be transformed economically. Like its British progenitor, the Belgian industrial revolution centered in iron, coal and textiles. France was more slowly and less thoroughly industrialized than either Britain or Belgium. While Britain was establishing its industrial leadership, France was immersed in its revolution, and uncertain political situation discouraged large investments in industrial innovations. By 1848, France had become an industrial power, but despite great growth under the Second Empire, it remained behind Britain. Other European countries lagged far behind, and the political conditions in other nations also hindered industrial expansion. Germany, for example, despite vast resources of coal and iron, did not begin its industrial expansion until after national unity was achieved in 1870. Once begun, Germany's industrial production grew so rapidly that by the turn of the century, that nation was outproducing Britain in steel and had become the world leader in the chemical industries. The rise of US industrial power in the 19th and 20th century also far outstripped European efforts, and Japan too joined the industrial revolution with striking success. The Eastern European countries were behind early in the 20th century. It was not until the 5-year plan that the Soviet Union became a major industrial power. Telescoping into a few decades, the industrialization that had taken a century and a half in Britain. The mid-20th century witnessed the spread of the Industrial Revolution into previously non-industrialized areas such as China and India. The technological and economic aspects of the Industrial Revolution brought about significant socio-cultural change. In its initial stage, it seemed to deepen labor's poverty and misery. their employment and subsistence became dependent on costly means of production that few people could afford to own. Job security was lacking, workers were frequently displaced by technological improvements, and a large labor pool. Lack of worker protections and regulations meant long work hours for miserable wages, living in unsanitary tenements and exploitations and abuse in the workplace. But even as the problems arose, so too did new ideas that aimed to address them. These ideas pushed innovations and regulations that provided people with more material convenience while also enabling them to produce more, travel faster, and communicate more rapidly. The second industrial revolution was characterized by using electric power for mass production. This phase saw the introduction of large-scale machines and new technologies such as telephones, electric motor, and huge conveyor belts. The production of automobiles and electricity also played a defining role during this period. In terms of basic material, modern industry began to exploit many natural and synthetic resources not previously utilized. Lighter metals, new alloy, and synthetic products such as plastic as well as new energy sources. Combined with these were developments in machines, tools, and computers that gave rise to the automatic factory. Although some segments of industry were almost completely mechanized in the early to mid 19th century. Automatic operation, as distinct from the assembly line, first achieved major significance in the second half of the 20th century. Ownership of the means of production also underwent change. In the first half of 20th century, many countries of Europe socialized basic sectors of their economies. Therefore, the second industrial revolution marked a significant technological and economic growth period that further shaped the global economy. Third industrial revolution, also known as digital or digital age, is a period of significant technological advancement that began in the late 20th century and continues to the present day. It is characterized by the widespread acceptance of digital technologies including computer, the internet, and mobile devices. 5G technology, digital data, personal data protection bill. The third industrial revolution has increased access to information and digital education in the modern world. On the other hand, it also led to some concerns about privacy, data security, and more. The fourth industrial revolution, which is the most recent, began in the early 21st century as a continuation of the third industrial revolution. One of the key features of the fourth industrial revolution is the use of data and analytics to drive decision making and improve performance. Dear students, let us talk about the impact of industrial revolution. The industrial revolution had several impacts. One of the major impacts of the industrial revolution was the development of industries that produced higher quality goods in large quantities. Many new inventions improved the quality of life since large quantities of goods were produced easily and quickly. This improved the living standards of people and generally improved the economy. There were also negative impacts as a result of the industrial revolution. One negative impact was the pollution of environment as factories produced dangerous gases and waste was poorly disposed of. The poor disposal of waste exposed people to dangerous disease. Another negative impact of the Industrial Revolution was child labor and low wages. Children were often employed as they were easier to exploit, but adults were also poorly paid. The average income and the growth of the population in general saw record change. Modern economists are of the opinion that the standard of living of the general population began to change significantly for the first time in history, even though it did not see an overall improvement until the beginning of the 20th century. The Industrial Revolution saw emergence of modern capitalist economies around the world at this time, as the GDP per capita saw an exponential rate of growth around this time. Economic historians regard the Industrial Revolution as the most important movement in human history since the domestication of animals and plants. Let us discuss the impact of workers. A survey revealed that the average lifespan of workers was lower than that of another social group in cities. More people died at a younger age in the new industrial cities than in the village they had come from. Half the children failed to survive beyond the age of 5. The increase in the population of cities was because of immigrants rather than by an increase in the number of children born to families who already lived there. Deaths were mostly caused by epidemic of disease like cholera and typhoid. Some of the Industrial Revolution inventions. The Industrial Revolution inventions led to the increased production of vital goods and services, and these innovations changed the world's way of life. It was a time characterized by steam power and machinery introduction and development. Transformation of transport and cities was highly witnessed, and significant technological advancements increased the textile industry. The following are some machines invented during the Industrial Revolution: spinning jenny, steam engine, James Watt's steam engine, cotton gin, and telephone. Let us discuss about the causes of Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution, a major transformation of industry and economy, was driven by several key factors. Agriculture Revolution. Advances in agriculture techniques and practices led to increased food production. This led to the fact that significant portion of the population from farming engaged in industrial work. Population growth. The population in Europe saw a significant increase. This growth not only provided a large workforce for the new factories, but also created a greater demand for goods. Capital for investment. The profits from trade, particularly in empires like Britain, provided the capital needed to fund new industries and technologies. Availability of raw material. Countries like Britain had abundant supplies of essential raw material like coal and iron, crucial for industrial processes. Technological innovation. The period was marked by significant technological advancements such as the steam engine, spinning jenny, and power loom. These inventions dramatically increased production capacity. Transportation advanced improvements in transportation like the development of canals, better roads, and later the railway revolutionized the movement of goods and people, facilitating more efficient trade. Economic policies and political stability. In countries like Britain, political stability and economic policies encouraged investment and supported the growth of industries. Urbanization. As industries grew, people moved from rural areas to cities in search of work, concentrating labor and creating hubs of industrial activity. Colonialism and global trade. European powers had access to vast colonial resources and markets. This not only provided raw material but also markets to sell manufactured goods. Legal and social frameworks. The establishment of property rights and an entrepreneurial culture also played a significant role in facilitating industrial growth. Each of these factors interplayed to create an environment conducive to the rapid industrialization that characterized the Industrial Revolution. Some of the consequences of Industrial Revolution are: the Industrial Revolution, which began in late 18th century and continued into the 19th and early 20th centuries, brought about profound change in society, economy and technology. Its consequences were far-reaching. The first consequence of Industrial Revolution is the economic growth. There was a significant increase in productivity and economic growth. This led to a rise in the overall standard of living, although the benefits were not evenly distributed. Urbanization. The Industrial Revolution led to mass urbanization as people moved from rural areas to cities in search of work. This rapid urbanization led to overcrowded cities, often with poor living conditions. Social change. There was a shift from agrarian societies to industrial society. This change disrupted traditional lifestyles and family structures. The rise of the middle class and the change in the class system were also notable. The conditions of the labor. The factory system introduced harsh working conditions with long hours, low wages and poor safety standards, particularly in the early phases. This led to the emergence of labor unions and workers' right movements. Technological innovation. The Industrial Revolution was marked by rapid technological advancements in industries such as textiles, mining and transportation. For example, the steam engine, railroads. Another point is the environmental impact. Industrialization led to significant environmental change, including deforestation, pollution and the beginning of significant impact on the climate change due to increased use of fossil fuels. Global inequality. The Industrial Revolution widened the gap between industrialized and non-industrialized countries, contributing to global patterns of inequality. Cultural change. It brought about change in culture and social norms, influencing art, literature and education. Health impacts. Overcrowding and industrial pollution led to health problems. However, the era also saw advancements in medical science and public health. Political change. The rise in industrial capitalism led to change in political ideologies and policies, influencing movements such as socialism and Marxism. Industrial Revolution and the development of bioindustries. The Industrial Revolution and the development of bioindustries in India are two separate but interconnecting aspects of the country's economy and technological evolution. Let us explore each of these topics. The Industrial Revolution was a period of significant economic and technological transformation. It marked a shift from agrarian economies to industrial economies characterized by mechanized production, urbanization, and technological innovations. India experienced its own version of industrial revolution, although at different pace and with unique characteristics compared to Western world. India's industrialization began in the 19th century under British colonial rule. Initially, British colonial policies focused on the extraction of raw material from India to fuel their own industrial growth. This led to the development of industries like textiles, jute, and steel in India, mainly to serve the British market. Post-independence India changed a policy to reduce dependence on foreign goods. The government played a significant role in promoting key industries including heavy manufacturing infrastructure, development and the establishment of public sector enterprises. Over time, India's industrial landscape has evolved with the country becoming a hub of information technology, software services, pharmaceuticals and automotive manufacturing. These sectors have contributed significantly to India's economic growth and global competitiveness. The bioindustries in India. Bioindustries include various sectors related to biotechnology and life science. India has made significant steps in the development of bioindustries in recent decades. The Indian biotechnology sector has witnessed substantial growth with a focus on research and development, biopharmaceuticals, agriculture and healthcare. India has become a global player in the production of generic pharmaceuticals and vaccines. The biotechnology sector has been supported by government initiatives such as the establishment of biotechnological parks, research centers and incentives for biotech companies. Additionally, India has a large pool of skilled scientists and researchers in the life science field. India's bioindustries also extended to areas like agribusinesses where biotechnology is used to develop genetically modified crops and improve agriculture productivity. The adoption of genetically modified cotton is one example of success in this area. India's biotechnology industry is also contributing to advancement in diagnostics, healthcare and medical research, including stem cell research and regenerative medicines. So, we end today's